We'll start off episode 4 with Mitch. Mitch and Paula head to a local university so that Paula can interview a professor for that documentary she's working on. But as she heads inside, Mitch gets a phone call from his ex-wife, Paige. And that's because the editor of the New York Daily News called Paige after someone tried to plant a pretty disparaging story about Hannah. Paige figures that it might be Mitch, but Mitch denies that he had anything to do with this. So as soon as he gets off the phone with Paige, he immediately calls Corey, who's in the middle of watching some programming that might or might not make it on UBA+. He tells Corey that someone's launched a smear campaign against Hannah, and immediately Corey knows that it was Fred. Mitch tells him that even though the New York Daily News won't run it, somebody will. They start getting into it about what exactly Corey's supposed to do about this, with Corey finding it very ironic that Mitch, the whole reason why this Hannah story is coming out really, is the one who's calling him and telling him to do something about it. Mitch yells at him, "You're the CEO. Do what the CEO does and handle it. Handle the suit, make it all go away." After a few hours, Paula comes out. Paula and Mitch head back to Paula's place, and she starts going over the footage of the interview with the professor, which went really well. The professor clearly admitted that there is problems in the Italian judicial system, with Paula bringing up the case of Amanda Knox. Paula ended up making both of them dinner, but she's not willing to serve Mitch. And as they're kind of laughing and joking around, Paula kisses him on the cheek, but Mitch says, "Don't do that." He is extremely uncomfortable. The next day, Mitch wakes up to a phone call from Paula, and she lets him know that the professor had contacted her because he had just tested positive for the coronavirus. And since Paula was with him and she was with Mitch, really doing her civic duty by letting him know that he could have been exposed to this thing. But now they have to quarantine for 14 days. But she suggests that they quarantine together, work on this documentary, use the 14 days productively. So now Mitch has that to deal with. But back in the States, Alex's big return is a hit. Alex is the #1 trending topic on Twitter. People are loving the fact she's back. But Alex gets pretty uncomfortable when they start bringing up terms like feminist god and modern day hero. She clearly doesn't see herself like that at all. The segment ends and Ty, the guy who's the social media wizard for the show, walks by Yanko and lets him know that someone retweeted his Groundhog Day video. But it's not in a good way. Yanko had the audacity to say that the groundhog was his spirit animal. And since it's 2021, or I guess in this case, it's still 2020, but still, nothing's changed. People just wake up looking to be offended by something, and unfortunately for Yanko Flores, this is it. So Yanko's going to have a meeting later that day with Stella and Mia. Also after the show, Alex and Bradley split up. They went their separate ways. Alex feels like $1 million. Chip brings up the debate, because they have to book the travel and all that, but Alex has no interest in moderating that debate. But Chip tells her that she really should reconsider. In the other dressing room, Bradley is quickly decompressing from the show. She's still hoping for moderator, but at the moment, she says she has a, quote, meeting to get to. One that was off the books that she scheduled for herself. This isn't a normal meeting. This is one of those bedroom meetings, and that meeting is with Laura. After they have some adult fun, Bradley needs to get going. She has to meet with Corey. And Bradley tells Laura that she's planning on walking into Corey's office and demanding moderator and not leaving until she gets it. And Laura can't believe that that's how the two talk. Because she's known Corey a long time, and she knows that Corey wouldn't let just anybody talk to him like that. Bradley explains that it's complicated, and Laura says, well, I'm all ears. So Bradley starts explaining the relationship between her and Corey, about how on Alex's last show, they fired Corey, they put Fred on leave, and they suspended Bradley. Because of this, her and Corey got really close. But a couple days later, when she got her opportunity to address the board, she unloaded on them. She told him that Fred needed to be fired, and Corey was the guy to replace him. A day later, he came down to her room, and he said that they made him CEO. The first move that he was doing is lifting her suspension. But now, her attitude is, screw that guy. Laura then tells Bradley, you know they're talking about replacing him, right? UBA's in third, which wouldn't be a huge deal, but there's scandal surrounded by it. He's had a little bit of success for him, but people have a short memory. It comes down to money, and he's investing a lot of it in UBA+, and really, who wants another streaming service? At this point, UBA's balance sheet is a mess. So Laura suggests to Bradley that she talk to Corey, make amends with him. Even if it's just for show, at this moment, Corey is her CEO, the network is her partner. Making the network her ally and not her foe will help her career. So Bradley heads off with the idea that she'll meet with Corey at some point later that day. But back at UBA, Daniel wants to talk to Mia. Mia, though, doesn't really have a lot of time. She has to run to that meeting with Stella and Yanko, so she's not exactly all ears, but the reason that Daniel stopped her is because he wants to be the moderator. Daniel has noticed an unfavorable pattern for people of color at UBA, and he doesn't like it. He's coming to Mia because he figures that she also can commiserate with this, and with her current role, she can help. So all he's asking is that when she talks to Stella, she push for Daniel to moderate. Mia promises, yes, I will plead your case. And then she heads up to the meeting with Yanko, where they have to address the elephant in the room. I should say the spirit animal in the room. They tell Yanko that he's going to have to apologize on air because of it. And Yanko can't understand why. Honestly, he doesn't think he did anything wrong. But Stella and Mia have to make him understand that he's going to have to save face. Yanko knows he's going to have to do it. He just feels like he's completely misunderstood. Now with just Mia and Stella alone in the office, Mia starts pleading her case to Stella for Daniel to moderate. Stella tells Mia that Corey's made it clear. He wants Alex to moderate. Stella wants someone named Noreen, but the fact is, Daniel is on a long list of people that have thrown their hat in the ring. Mia continues to plead Daniel's case, but Stella tells Mia that she just doesn't feel like Daniel has the it factor. She feels like Daniel's more of a Ringo, not necessarily a Paul or John. Mia absolutely disagrees with this, but Stella's just not blown away from what she's seen from Daniel. Mia ends up heading out of the office, and Stella heads down to meet with Alex and Chip to try to get Alex to agree to do the debate. Stella puts on her fake face, acting the whole time that she really wants Alex to do this when really she's just doing Corey's bidding for her. But she gives Corey spiel, saying that it's not about viewers. Everyone's going to be watching the debate anyway. It's about the recent negative backlash from the press. They need to prove to the public that they can still provide quality content, and nothing's more quality than Alex Levy. Stella says, you're going to kill it, and you'll get a ton of buzz from it. But Alex takes that offensively. She doesn't feel like she needs buzz. And she tells Stella, I think there's some people here that have a lot more to prove. So, no. Stella says, okay, I hear you, but please, reconsider, think about it. That's all I ask. And once she leaves the room, Alex starts ripping Stella to Chip. And Chip starts informing Alex on where Stella came from. She used to run a data media company, and Corey paid a lot of money to absorb it, and then thus making Stella the head of news. But Alex just thinks that she's way too young and hasn't dealt with enough crap to be bossing people around. Down in the newsroom, Daniel had sought out Mia to see how the conversation went. And Mia tells him that it probably won't be him. And Daniel thinks that it might be a race thing or a sexual orientation thing. But Mia's honest with him and says no. It's because Stella doesn't think you have the it factor. And that almost pisses off Daniel even more. Everybody then goes home. Corey is sitting in his room. He's really taking what Mitch said to heart. He's hired a private investigator to find out what stories Fred is planting and where he's planting them. And then gets a knock at the door, and it's Bradley. When he opens the door, he sees her and says, I don't know who's moderating. And honestly, it's kind of beneath my position. She tells him, it's not about that. She walks inside and starts telling him that she doesn't like how their friendship has suffered. She's not okay with it. She wants to make amends. They have it out right then and there in Corey's room, but at the end of it, they do end up making amends. They hug it out, but at the end, he does let her know that Alex will probably be moderating the debate. He just doesn't see them using two straight white women to moderate the debate. Bradley thanks him for the honesty, and then she heads out. And she heads straight to Laura's place. She tells Laura that she took her advice, making amends with Corey. About the debate, and Bradley tells her that she's not going to be doing it, and she gets it. The optics of it, having two white straight women moderate a debate. And Laura says, wait, you just called yourself straight. Bradley says, yeah, because to most of the world I am. But Laura questions as to why that is. And Bradley starts kind of explaining that most of the time she is straight, but she doesn't like putting a label on her sexuality. And the reason that Laura is getting so upset is because it is well known that she is a lesbian. And it's been known for a long, long time. And yeah, now it's accepted, but 20 years ago it wasn't. 20 years ago, she lost her job because of it. It wasn't like she wanted this information out there, but people talk and it got out there. And because of everything that she went to, there's something inside of her that wants to be resentful because Bradley isn't grateful for the gift that she's been given. Because Laura Peterson walked so that people like Bradley could run. She's basically telling Bradley, use the fact that you hook up with women as your advantage. But Bradley doesn't want to use her identity like that. Laura, however, questions that, thinking that it has more to do with the fact that Bradley is from a West Virginia small town that might not be accepting of people like her. Bradley gets up and says, you know what, this was a mistake. And Laura says, that's it, get out of here. Go live in your delusional world. And Bradley starts yelling at her how she's not delusional. She's not a country bumpkin. And then she smashes a pretty expensive vase. She then gets kicked out and has to just walk home with her thoughts. Everybody reconvenes back at the studio for the next day's airing. Yanko and Daniel start commiserating about the fact that Daniel doesn't like being labeled, Yanko doesn't like being misunderstood, but they're both going to have to eat shit. As they're setting up their segments during a commercial break, one of the production assistants runs in and tells Mia that the guest that they had booked is not going to make it, so Mia has to think on the fly. She tells the production assistant, just walk around, find somebody. Somebody's got to be in this building. And Chip, who overhears this, pulls the production assistant aside and says that there's somebody with Howard Stern's show. Grab that person and bring them down. But Mia walks over to Chip and says, what are you doing? Chip explains that he overheard that Howard Stern was having this guest, and Mia just says, don't undermine my authority. Even though Chip was trying to help, Mia once again says, don't undermine my authority. And it has Chip questioning if Mia even wants him there. Because earlier, Alex let it spill that Stella didn't want Chip there. And after the reaction he got when he came back from some of the producers, it's got Chip questioning if UBA is really the right choice for him. The show gets back on air, though. Yanko apologizes. He doesn't do a great job, though, I'll tell you that. He doesn't really use the right terminology, saying things like, I'm sorry if anybody was offended. But as Yanko is butchering this, Stella gets a phone call from Corey. He wants to know where they stand on the moderators because he wants to wrap this thing up that day. She gives him the update that Alex isn't going to do it. She keeps pushing for her person, Noreen. And Corey starts laughing. He's obviously stressed out, but he says, I'm just trying to get us to mid-March so we can launch this streaming service, which no one really wants, as if we're going to force-feed them content. And I can't even trust you to do this thing. I mean, why did I give you the job? You didn't have to sell us your company. You chose to sell us your company. Things like this is the job. And Stella says, I've been wondering why you brought me on. I mean, what's the point if you're not going to listen to anything I have to say? Is it just so you can parade an Asian woman around, making it look like you listen and you're woke? Don't just give me lip service about empowering me. Either let me do it or let me walk. Alex was never my choice for anything, and if that's what you want, do it yourself. Corey says, you're underestimating me, but you're also underestimating Alex. Talent is talent, and recognizing talent is an executive's only real job. So make this work now or don't. And Stella says, I got it. Everything done the same by a young Asian woman is looked at as different. She hangs up the phone, but then Corey's phone immediately rings because it's the private investigator. Earl lets him know that the genie's not going back in the bottle. There's too many blogs, too many newspapers, too many everything. Someone is going to end up running it. The only real way to kill the story is by going directly to Fred, which Corey doesn't want to do. So on top of everything Corey has to deal with, he also has this issue. And after Stella hung up the phone, she started walking back to the production room when she passes by Daniel. And she has no idea that Daniel knows that she doesn't think he has the it factor. And she puts on her fake voice and says, I'm really looking forward to your segment. But at that moment, Daniel has decided to make a change. If she doesn't think he has the it factor, he's going to show her the it factor. And he does that by serenading Alex on the morning show. And none of this was planned. Everybody in the production room is very confused, but they have to let it go. They can't cut out of it. But as Daniel is poorly serenading Alex, Bradley, who just found out that Alex said no to the debate, goes to track down Stella and plead her case. She starts to tell Stella that there's something that Stella doesn't know about her. And you think maybe she's going to divulge that she is a lesbian, or at the very least bisexual, but she doesn't. She can't get it out. She just says that she comes from a conservative family. It's not exactly the diversity that anyone's really looking for. When Stella walks out of this impromptu meeting and starts walking back to the production room, a woman walks up to her and gives her the overnight numbers from Alex's return, Alex's interview, and it was huge. Not only that, but sponsors are coming back. Looks like Corey's move paid off and maybe Stella was wrong. Stella walks back in the production room at the very end of Daniel's serenading of Alex. But when the show ends, everyone's telling Daniel what a great job he did, how awesome it was. But there's one person who is clearly not amused, and that is Mia. He also gets news from Stella that he won't be doing it. Stella, though, has to go get Alex to do this debate. She walks into her dressing room, and right off the bat, the conversation is pretty combative. Stella knows that Alex doesn't really like her or respect her for that matter. But the conversation flips from combative to a genuine appeal. Stella tells Alex that when she did what she did, she made a connection with the women of this country. Even though Alex doesn't think that's true, it is. Stella tells her, you mean something to these women. As a leader, as a feminist, I want you to be these things. So if you're looking for a brand, there it is. And honestly, I don't know why you don't want to take that mantle. 9 months ago, you opened a door. Walk through it. She wraps up by telling Alex, by the way, it was a great show today. And then she walks out. And that night, Alex heads home and starts looking up topics for the debate. That same night, Bradley does not head home. She heads to Laura's place. She buys her a $300 gift card to buy a new vase. And she heads to her place and starts apologizing because she just doesn't really know who she is. Laura, though, doesn't really seem receptive to the apology. She starts walking back in her apartment, but that's when Bradley just grabs her and hugs her. Laura's kind of surprised by this, but she does hug her back. And it seems like the two women are on their way to making amends, much like Bradley and Corey. And speaking of Corey, he had a meeting with Sybil. He explains to Sybil exactly what's going on with the Hannah stories, but he needs her help in killing it. He says to her, "You're friends with Fred, and I need you to talk to him and have him stop." And while Sybil feels terrible for Hannah's family, she's not friends with Fred. In fact, she tells Corey, "The last time I spoke to Fred, he told me that you were the best business decision." And if I'm being honest, I don't think that that's true at all. You let the talent walk all over you if you call Bradley Jackson talent, and you push us hard to buy out Fred, rather than have a true independent investigation. That right there brings up all sorts of questions that honestly I don't need answered. This is a business, not a morality play. If the stories he's planting aren't true, then the girl's family is going to have a hell of a liable lawsuit. The fact that you showed up here instead of calling Fred directly proves to me why Fred pushed so hard to get you here, when he clearly hated you with a passion. Actions have consequences, so whatever those consequences are, it's really none of my business. Thank you so much for checking out this recap. Please consider subscribing to the channel. Hit thumbs up if you liked it. Smash that thumbs down button if you thought this sucked. Make sure to be nice in the comment section. If you don't see the next video up in the end screen there, I'll get it up in a few days, not to worry. And I have merchandise, so go buy a mug or something. It's never too early to think about Christmas gifts, folks. But once again, thank you for checking out this recap.